Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the OLDN virtual conference. Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, please signify so at least. Brilliant. Welcome to the OLDN virtual conference. We are happy to have you here and we're happy to be here ourselves. It has been in the works for some time now. It was actually supposed to be a physical conference, but COVID happened, the pandemic happened, and we had to just re-strategize and still be able to share knowledge and have the conference as planned. So the theme of the conference is embracing organizational development theory and practice as operational and strategic imperative for organizational effectiveness. I'm sure most of us have spent some time looking at this, but the idea is to spread the word and evangelize organizational development and leadership concept. And today we want to make it as interesting, as engaging as humanly possible. So please go with me. We'll have speaking events. We have a guest speaker in the house. We'll have a form of a round table conversation, and we will always have opportunities to have questions. I encourage you to have your pen and paper on ground, close to you. I have mine. If you have questions, just write them down. Then at the end of every speaking engagement, you can actually come up with your questions. Now, some people might not be comfortable with the audio questioning. It's okay. If you don't want to do that, you can as well just write the questions in the chat box and we'll take it from there and would direct it accordingly. So once again, welcome to the session. And I do hope we have an amazing time. A minute. Can you see my, okay, good. Yes, the program is sponsored by or partnered by a couple of companies. Bintra Consulting is there, Higher Thinkers Global is there, Tech Entrepreneurs is there, we have Business Growth and Incubation Center is there, we have DB Consulting, and we have the GAP groups, and we also have the International Society for International Society for Organizational Development and Change. This program is proudly supported by all these OD representative, OD companies or OD oriented organizations. So we thank them for their support and for their contributions. The objective of this conference would have been something of our own mind. I'm sure before now we must have had our minds playing games on us, but for the sake of the conference, we just clarify. The incorporation of organizational development OD skills, training for directors, C-suite managers, and other work group is a strategic imperative for building high-performance organization. This is according to Dr. Justin Chinopere-Cohen in 2019. We thank him very much for his leadership. We thank him very much for his impact. We thank him very much for the initiative and the opportunity for us all to network as professionals. I could imagine if we wanted to do this on our own, physically, imagine how many hours I would have to travel to see Dr. Preeti, for example. I'll probably need to get a visa, a ticket, stay in a hotel, then eventually I'll get to see him. But we thank Dr. Justin for his initiative. I probably have a meeting with Dr. Preeti almost every day now. I saw her yesterday, I'm seeing her today. Seeing her today again. So Dr. Justin, we thank you very much for the initiative and your effort. We know it's not easy. We know there's a lot, it takes a lot to go through this, but we thank you. And we pray you keep the grace increases per time. The objective is to advance the theory and practice of organizational leadership and development, regardless of the size of the organizations where we come from. OD has a role to play in it. It doesn't matter whether it is big or small. I've encountered people who feel OD is for large organizations alone, but that's not the case. It doesn't matter, as long as you have a group of people who follow you and they see you, they might not actually call you a leader, and they see you as a leader, you're in a position to organize and develop that particular organization. And the second objective we have is to equip directors, the corporate suite, the C-suite, the mission critical, the managers, and necessary organizational leadership, and the development of skills necessary for building high performance organization. At this point, I know I'm a very inquisitive person. I already have a question, and the question is, but I won't say it. I'll say it after. I'll say it afterwards. The next slide, please. Somebody's chatting. Okay. Now, we have representative and international directors, which is why I appreciate the gathering a lot. Like I said before, how could this have been possible to connect with these kind of mighty personalities or great personalities? But for the sake of the OLDN, the network, we are able to collaborate in one form or the other. Now, I would like to appreciate some of the representatives from Afghanistan, Mr. Taiwo, Mr. Hassan Tawakoli from Botswana, Mr. Emmanuel Yang, who is a representative of the network. From India, Dr. Preeti D'Souza and Dr. Sharma, thank you very much. We see your impact all the time. From South Africa, Mr. Paul Mapure. From Cameroon, Mr. Calvin Famba. From Kenya, Mrs. Jane Njeri Njogu. From the Philippines, Ms. Honju Glace. Apologies if I don't pronounce the name very well, just bear with me. From Morocco, Ms. Fauza Masaz from Pakistan, Ms. Samira Khan from Bangladesh, Mr. Jahiru Islam from Nigeria, Dr. Dotun, Moses Jagade, my honorable boss from UAE, myself, from Zimbabwe, Mr. Walter Nyakayanga, and Mr. For sure, Dr. Justin is here. His name is not here, but is well represented, and Dr. Justin is from Abu Dhabi. If at any point in time anyone needs to connect with any of this representative or these directors, you can just email info@centerold.com or chat through WhatsApp with the WhatsApp number there. You can actually connect. One of the goals of the network is for us to be able to connect. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk to Dr. Justin all the time. Dr. Justin has a lot going on with him and a lot of things that he has to do on behalf of the network. So you can just reach out to him or send an email. You provide them with the contact of the person who you want to connect with. That's one of the goals of the network. Now we want to welcome Ms. Ms. Valerie. Is she here, Ms. Valerie? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome to the event. And yes, if you can hear me clearly, you have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. Good day to you all, and welcome to our Organization Leadership and Development Network 2020 virtual conference. I'm Valerie Cheche, and I'm from Zimbabwe. Before I begin, let me acknowledge the presence of key stakeholders amongst us. Firstly, I would like to welcome our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Dr. Ken Omolan, then the President and Director for the Center of Organization, Leadership and Development, Dr. Justice Chinukwere, the Vice President of OLDN, Dr. Dutan Q, Editorial Board Chair, Dr. Jijoke Mwachuku, please forgive me for the pronunciations, and Mr. Timothy Chizuzu. Then we have the OLDN Membership Chair, Mr. Walter Nyakanyanga. OLDN International Directors, invited guests, and OLDN members. So welcome to our conference. The theme of our conference is embracing OD theory and practice as operational and strategic imperatives for organizational effectiveness. The main aim of our conference is to advance the theory and practice of organization, leadership, and development, as well as equip directors, C-suites, and mission critical managers with necessary organization, leadership, and development skills necessary for building high-performance organizations. Overall, our aim is to bring together scholars as well as professionals to discuss issues of growth, organization, and development across the globe. Our network has its foundation in organization, leadership, and development. And the Center for Organization, Leadership, and Development, that is called, is the mother body for our network. And its main mission is to exist to move organizations, individuals, and work teams up the ladder of growth through the education and training. CODE is an affiliate of the International Society for Organization, Development, and Change, which is an international society based in Colorado Springs from the USA. So then we move on to our network of OLDN. It exists to facilitate leading edge insight in practice in OD through OD-informed publications, provisions for a platform for exchange, a forum for debate on organization, leadership, and development issues, and a network of emerging and existing OD professionals. The network, that is the OLDN network, has members from across the globe. We have members from Zimbabwe, members from Botswana, Ghana, Nigeria, India, Pakistan, as well as the Philippines. So our network is broad, and we seek to engage more scholars and professionals to be part of the OLDN network and discuss and engage in conversations relating to organization, growth, development, as well as leadership. And without taking much of your time, let me officially welcome you to our conference, and I hope we will have full engagements. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Valerie. Thank you very much for the welcome address. Up next, we want to talk about the Hall of Fame. We want to talk about accomplishment and awards. And I would like to welcome Mrs. Maureen Omebe, the board member. She's a board member of the network, and she's the executive director of the GAP group. Ms. Maureen, are you with us? Hello? Ms. Maureen? Hello?
Can I have?
Mrs. Maureen, can you hear me?
Clearly, I can hear you.
Brilliant, I can hear you. How are you, ma'am? Welcome to the session. You have the floor. You're supposed to help us with the accomplishments and awards presentation. Please take the floor, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much. I am having little challenges with my network.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can. I can hear you, but a little bit of, but I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay, I would like to switch to another gadget shortly so that my network will be better before I take off.
Okay, I will take it up. I will take it up as you connect to your network, then you pick it up from there.
Brilliant.
All right, welcome everyone, and much appreciation to all of you for being part of the OLDN conversation. My role today, and Ms. Maureen, is to acknowledge or recognize some of our members who have contributed significantly to the growth of not only the organization leadership and development network, but the evolution and growth of the Center for Organization Leadership and Development. Allow me to emphasize that we are not an award-giving organization, and we try by all means to set ourselves apart from most of the events management companies that give awards just for the sake of giving awards. Our mission is to ignite insightful conversations in organization leadership and development, and we commit to that mission. Allow me also at this point in time to acknowledge, I see Madam Anita Singh, who is the Vice Principal of a school here in Abu Dhabi. We welcome you. We appreciate your presence. I also appreciate my colleagues in the OLDN network, Dr. Chijoke, who is our editorial board chair, and Dr. Dotun, who is the Vice President of the OLDN network, and everyone else who is with us today. I appreciate significantly Dr. Cornel Malan for heeding the call and being part of us in this virtual conference. And I also appreciate Dr. Preeti from India for the support that we have been receiving ever since we connected. We so much appreciate that. I'm going to start the announcement of one of the awardees of our network. And this is an award in relation to the service that has been given to us as a network. The award for service excellence in terms of our network goes to Mr. Walter Nyakanyanga, who is the baser of Dudley Hall School in Norton, Zimbabwe, and also serves as the financial director of MWG Mining Syndicate. He was the first student to register for the Center for Organization Leadership and Development Consultant Program in June of 2019. He also joined the OLDQ editorial board on the 1st of December 2019. Mr. Walter also contributed 2 articles to the OLDQ issue on financial management in the education sector and also on entrepreneurial leadership. On the 23rd of May 2020, Mr. Walter Nyakanyanga assumed the role of chair of the membership committee of the OLDN network. And he has been instrumental in terms of executing that role and creating the membership database for the OLDN network. Mr. Walter is an advocate of embracing spirituality and religious tolerance in OLDN activities and conversations. Mr. Walter engages in most membership discussions. He participates in all conversations and makes use of his social platforms to advocate for the OLDN mission. As OLDN membership chair, Mr. Walter is an observer in all OLDN chapters. As we are launching chapters in India, chapters in Botswana, chapters in Afghanistan, Mr. Walter will be an observer in all these chapters. Mr. Walter Nyakanyanga, in recognition of your exceptional and selfless efforts in driving the growth of the Organization Leadership and Development Network, OLDN, I welcome you as one of our OLDN Hall of Fame awardee and present to you the 2020 Service Excellence Award. We greatly appreciate your contribution to the network. You have 30 seconds, Mr. Walter.
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor. I'm very humbled. I wasn't expecting this kind of award. Really, thank you very much. I really appreciate, and I thank you all guys for being connected to you. I really thank you, and this platform has enriched me in much knowledge and much vigilance in terms of OD. And I'm feeling that I want to be the same again. During this year, 2020, and in the future, I'll be very grateful and I'll be loyal to this platform of OLDN, and I'll serve with wholeheartedly, with all the best. And I really thank you so much for your support. Without you, I'll be nothing. But because of your support and your encouragements and everything else, I really thank you very much. Thank you so much, guys. I'm really, really happy to be in this family of OLDN. Thank you very much, Doctor, and everyone else. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Maureen.
Madam Maureen, are you here? Miss Maureen? Hello? Mrs. Maureen, can you hear me? I don't know.
Right, I'll take it up and she will comment at a later stage. May I ask the participants to please mute your microphones? Participants, please mute your microphones. I am trying to mute everyone and people are unmuting again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good.
In appreciation, someone with Infinix Note 5, please, I'm muting you several times. Can you please assist us in this regard? Infinix Note 5, stylus.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. The second award, or which was supposed to be the first award, goes to Dr. Dotun Moses Jegede. Dr. Dotun Moses Jegede is the director of DB Consulting in Nigeria. He joined the Center for Organization Leadership and Development on the 12th of December 2019 as an editorial board member. From day one, Dr. Dotun showed or demonstrated a sense of ownership and commitment that has propelled not only the OLDQ, but has also propelled the establishment of the Organization Leadership and Development Network. From day one, Dr. Dotun joined the network not with any personal ambitions, not with any personal interests, but he managed to demonstrate a sense of ownership to the extent that he uses all his personal platforms to advocate for the mission of OLDN. If you check his posts today, you will see that Dr. Dotun posts more about the Center for Organization Leadership and Development Network, more about the Organization Leadership and Development, more about the Organization Leadership and Development Quarterly than he posts his own company, DB Consulting. I have not seen any post about DB Consulting on much of his posts, but I have seen a lot about the mission of OLDN. So he joined the network with clear sense of purpose, ownership of the Organization Leadership and Development Network mission, and commitment to the values that we are trying to advance as a network. Dr. Dotun spends almost probably 80% of his time in a day to advocate for the Organization Leadership and Development Network. With Dr. Dotun, we have meetings when it's about 1 a.m. in the morning here in UAE, discussing nothing but the Organization Leadership and Development Network. In demonstrating ownership and commitment to the network, Dr. Dotun voluntarily assumed various roles, including liaising with all members. I believe all members on the network knows Dr. Dotun. He joined the network in view of the mission. He joined the network without any ulterior incentives or expectations. His purpose is to uphold the mission. He is not pursuing his personal interests, but he is advocating for the embracement of code and OLDN mission. Dr. Dotun was the first presenter of the OLDN membership conversations, and he has participated directly or indirectly in all OLDN conversations. Dr. Dotun is not only an editorial board member, but oversees the OLDQ editorial board. He also is the international director for Nigeria, the chapter which we have just launched, and is the vice president of the Organization Leadership and Development Network. Dr. Dotun, in you we see leadership based on purpose. In you we see valuing collaboration. In you we see humanitarianism. In you we see the kind of leaders that we are trying to advocate for. Leaders who pursue a mission. Leaders who value collaboration and commitment. Leaders who are against competition and the copy-paste ideologies. Leaders who pursue a mission to the core. Dr. Dotun Moses Jegede, in recognition of your exceptional, selfless efforts in driving the growth of the Organization Leadership and Development Network, on behalf of Ms. Maureen Omeibe, I welcome you to the OLDN Hall of Fame awardee and present the 2020 OLDN Service Excellence Award. And I will ask Ms. Maureen to say something before handing back to Dr. Tossett. Ms. Maureen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Justin. You have highlighted basically the top description of who Dr. Moses Dotujegede is. It would have been a wonderful honor for me to make this presentation, but you have done precisely well in letting the world know through this platform who this gentleman is. I call him a gift, for instance, to my company. And I do believe that 70% of membership of Organizational Leadership and Development Network was congregated directly or indirectly by Dr. Moses Dotujegede. It is a great privilege for me this afternoon to be the one to present you this award. And I want to tell you that this is just the starting point, because the person you are is going to open great doors for more and more of accolades and recognition, because you are a man on a mission with an exemplary leadership skills, and of course, it's type of selflessness I have not seen in recent time. With that, I say congratulations, and then I present this award to you, Dr. Dotu Moses Jegede, a deserving award to you from this network. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maureen.
30 minutes to Dr. Dotun. 30 seconds.
Yes.
30 seconds.
Dr. Dotun, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm
Hello?
muted.
Okay. But I can hear you now. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you
go
very
ahead.
much.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. I don't know what to say, because this is a bit expected, and I wasn't even looking forward to this. But I just want to say thank you very much to Dr. Justin, who has given me a whole lot of opportunity. I must say that since I joined this network, I have become a more better person than I was. I remember the book of Michael Armstrong, How to Be an Even Better Manager. And joining OLDN has made me a better person. And I want to thank Mrs. Murray. She has been so wonderful. We have worked together since 2015, and she has been an inspiration. I want to thank every single person here. Dr. Shijoke, Mr. Walter, Dr. Preti, Dr. Cornell, Mr. Tabani, Mr. Vere, and a whole lot of you. You are truly an influencer, and I take it as a challenge that this is just the beginning of this network. Into the future, we will see that God will help all of us, and we have created a significant impact, not only in Nigeria, but throughout the whole world. Thank you very much for this honor. I'm quite grateful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Doctor, and congratulations to everyone who has been awarded into the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much to Dr. Justin and Mrs. Maureen as well. Your voice, well appreciated. Dr. Dotun, can you still hear me? You're still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, could you please do us the honor of introducing the guest speaker, Dr. Cornell? This is one of the reasons why we are here today. We appreciate her a lot. We thank her very much in advance in whatever she has to say, and our minds are open. And we have our pen and paper to write down everything she has to say. Please, Dr. Dotun, can you do us the honor of ushering in or welcoming the guest speaker for today's event?
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I want to welcome each and everyone from every country of the world, whether you are from Nigeria or South Africa or Zimbabwe or Botswana or Morocco or Afghanistan or Kenya or Ghana, wherever you are coming from. It's a privilege to have you here. And this is our maiden edition of our conference, which is inspired to innovate and to strengthen the price of OD from individual to community to family to nation and to corporate organization. Today, we're going to be having somebody who is a person of several parts. Dr. Cornell has over 31 years of experience in both the public and private sector in policy and process design, human resource management, as well as statistical research, strategic planning, and corporate governance. She has been involved in quite a number of organizational design and restructuring, as well as business rescue projects in the military, mining, and public entity environment. As strength cut across general management, where she has served and responded for human resource management and strategy, performance management, also in the railway safety regulator, Her position includes, amongst others, other strategic oversight and governance over organizational activities such as research and at increasing knowledge in railway safety related matters, identification of trends and risk profiles towards decreasing the number of occurrences within South African railway environment. And she has a whole lot of robust experiences that time will fail me to manage. Dr. also has been instrumental in establishing academic relationships with various leading universities. During her tenure at Astrata in South Africa as the group knowledge as research manager, she was primarily involved in the establishment of the chair in pyrometeorological modeling within the EBIT at UPS in 2012. In fact, in addition to that, her mining insight and understanding stems from a period as knowledge and research manager at Global in South Africa, as well as HR information management at Anglo Platinum and senior officer in the South African National Defense Force. She has also consulted on human resource management, performance management, strategic planning, including the design and implementation of strategic redesign projects, and quite a number of informative and transformational operations. Dr. holds a PhD in public management and governance from the University of Johannesburg, as well as other qualifications in labor law, political science, and public administration. She's a qualified SAP HR consultant and has additional training in education, technology, and design, all the mentoring and coaching and leadership. She was registered as a general HR practitioner by the South Africa Board of People Practitioners in 2020. Dr. has prepared and presented various research papers at various local and international conferences regarding mining, leadership, and most lately, railway safety. More recently, she has been involved in various high-level international training and developmental initiatives, predominantly in the strategic human resource management and related. Today, I welcome you to join an expert, somebody who is actually loaded to strengthen, to promote, and to help us understand the role of OD in organizations, in families, in communities, and in individuals. Join me as I welcome Dr. Colonel Malan as our key facilitator for today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for those wonderful words. If nothing else, it just signifies how very old I am and how much I've done with the many years that I've been blessed. But thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. And thank you to everybody that is present this afternoon and have invited me to be part of this wonderful conference. I'm so lucky that I'm just going to try and share my screen. We did practice this, but I'm hoping that it will work. So let's see. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
All right. Okay, so I was very lucky that Miss Valerie actually introduced all the people, because I've been practicing since very early this morning to pronounce all those surnames, but now I've been spared that. So I just want to say welcome to everybody. And as we say in South Africa, all protocols observed, but also a special welcome to all the honorable guests from everywhere in the world. And I think it is a wonderful opportunity on a Saturday afternoon or evening, or maybe it's Sunday morning somewhere for some people, but thank you very much for joining. So my topic that I was given to address today is about enhancing strategic awareness. I just wanted to put the camera off so you can't see me reading everything. It's all about enhancing strategic awareness and aligning organizations to the new operating environment. So once again, a warm welcome to everybody present, including all the dignitaries, all the international directors, invited guests, and OLDN members. As I said, in terms of the discussion today, now this looks like a lot, but I promise you I'll be done before breakfast tomorrow morning. But without downgrading the other skills required of directors and other organizational members, as specified in various corporate governance codes, OD is a strategic imperative for organizational effectiveness because it focuses on aligning organizations within the rapidly changing and our very complex operating environment. In today's environment that we work in, OD theory and practice across work groups more than ever will have to enhance organizational learning, how we manage our knowledge, how we adapt our management, and the transformation of organizational norms and values. OD is instrumental in organizational effectiveness because it helps directors and senior executives devise change management tactics that strategically reposition the business in an evolving environment, whilst at the same time embracing partnerships, collaboration, and new innovation. My focus then today will be starting this conversation and hopefully provide you some food for thought. So very interestingly enough, we were all talking about the changing nature of work, but actually, if you think about it, the nature of work has changed. COVID-19 is the most significant challenge that the global economy has faced. No business is unaffected, no matter how big, how small, how remote, how bigly, how international. All are battling with some form of collapse in revenues, but others are also responding to this unprecedented spike in demand for certain products. The swift change brought about by the global pandemic, I think, is for everybody very unsettling. But it also represents a valuable opportunity. The world is not stable before the pandemic broke out. So we were already living in uncertainty. We were already facing huge challenges and threats, notably climate change, conflict, hunger, etc. The changes we are witnessing, although they've been sped up hugely, were already inevitable. We have been and continue to be operating in a VUCA, or as we call it in the OD terms, volatile, unstable, complex, and ambiguous environment. As one commentator put it, the pandemic has brought about light to society's latent social capital and demonstrated the value of a broad-based participation and involvement. If we move on, Ranish Kumar, the chairperson or the chairman of the State Bank of India, said now in recent time, this will be a true inspection point. I think that the pandemic, in terms of implications, will be as big as an event as World War II. And whatever we learn through this process, it must not go to waste. The old status quo dictated that strategy was set by top people of an organization to determine what needed to be done. But the pandemic is also a challenge for businesses now and their CEOs, because unlike they've ever faced, they are now being forced to make decisions about an abrupt dislocation of how their employees work, how customers behave, how their supply chains will function, and even ultimately constitutes how their business will be performing. And how do we measure that? So during a crisis, all strategies need to be revised and implemented quickly. Now, I like the two sayings that I quoted there for you. A good CEO is always scanning for signals and helping the organization deliver on-tuned responses. But a great CEO will see this moment as a unique opportunity. We define agility as the ability to reconfigure your strategy, your structure, processes, people, and technology quickly towards value creating and value protecting opportunities. In a 2017 McKinsey survey, Agile units performed significantly better than those who weren't Agile. But only a minority of these organizations were actually performing Agile transformations, which means they were actually trying to do better than just becoming Agile. Many more have been forced to do so because of the current crisis and have shown positive results. So why are Agile companies doing better than others? They are more decentralized and have less top-down command and control decision-making. They create Agile teams, which are allowed to make day-to-day decisions. The senior leaders will only make the big ones that can break or make a company. Agile teams are not out of control, even though they are allowed to make their own decisions. Why do I say that? For the simple reason that accountability, in the form of a good tracking and measuring process, precisely states their outcomes instead of their outputs. So the focus is more on outcomes, what do they deliver, than what have they done. And this overall becomes their responsibility. So the overarching idea of an Agile company is for the right people to be in the correct positions to make executions or to make and execute their decisions. Now on this slide is just some companies that have really really done well in this hard-pressed season. Some companies have learned the hard way that individual transaction costs do not really matter as much in today's world as end-to-end value optimization. An end idea that includes resilience and efficiency, as well as cost. From what I've observed, there are at least two related ideas that are ripe for innovation: goal setting and your operating model. Just to give you 2 examples or 3 examples, during this pandemic so far, many organizations have accomplished what previously has been thought as impossible. At the Dubai-based, there by you, Tosim, Dubai-based Majid Al-Futtaim, I don't know how to pronounce this name.
Yes, correct.
But the MAF, it's a huge, the picture over here, if you can see me pointing to it. Attendance at the movie theaters fell, of course, because nobody could go as a result of government-mandated closures, while its demand for its online supermarket soared. In 2 days, the company retained 1,000 ushers and ticket sellers who would have lost their jobs because of the closure of the movie theaters, but they sent them to work for the online grocer. Best Buy in America, which has spent months testing their curbside pickup at a handful of stores, which is where you order something and then you drive by and pick it up, rolled out to every store in the US. And I'm not talking 1 or 2 here. To every store in the US, all of their functionality in terms of online driving and collecting in 2 days, in just 2 days. Unilever, which I'm sure everybody knows is one of the leading sustainability companies in the world, they converted their factory lines for making deodorants into ones that make hand sanitizer worldwide in 4 days, in only 4 days. So if people or organizations focus on how they set their goals and what their operating model looks like, they will be able to move into these new times with speed. We need to move from just-in-time to just-in-time and just-in-case supply chain approach. I think all of us, all of us females most probably present, know the terminology referring to just in case. I have everything in my case just in case when I travel, because one never knows what the weather does. But the coronavirus crisis has demonstrated the vulnerability of our old supply chain or business models, with companies now finding their operations abruptly halted because one single factory had to shut down. However, if you look at the Toyota picture, this isn't the first time that overly lean product design and supply chain operations have been stress tested. In terms of Toyota, continuous improvement is one of the pillars of its famed business philosophy. But after serious problems in late 2009 already, they had to recall more than 9,000 vehicles worldwide. And their leaders confessed that their quest to become the world's largest automobile producer was compromising their devotion to learning. Again, in 2011, a massive earthquake in Japan was followed by a devastating tsunami and a temporary crippled expensive parts of Japan's auto supply chain. The Tohoku earthquake of 2011 once again exposed the vulnerability of the lean and just-in-time manufacturing systems of Toyota. And now, in 2020, ironically, Toyota is one of the many companies caught unprepared for the shock caused by the coronavirus outbreak that requires employees to work from home. Now, I'm not saying they're the only ones, but this is a world-leading example of organizations that somehow just don't seem to learn. So what do we need to ask? We as OD practitioners and people that work in the OD environment, we need to ask the right OD questions. Companies need to create or accelerate their abilities to provide the basis for the answers to these questions. And also importantly, require them to reskill their employees to take advantages of these capabilities. So if we ask, how do we learn from this and evolve better for the future? Instead of saying, how can we survive? So let's see this as a learning opportunity. That means we have to ask, what structural changes do we have to make? What in our structure wasn't agile enough for our company to survive or to improve ourselves during this struggle? And what is a move into the virtual space like we are doing now? What does that mean for our traditional things that we used to do, team building? How do we measure compliance? Remember, we have a notion, if I can't see you, I can't measure what you're doing. So how are we going to deal with issues of compliance? How are we going to monitor our distribution channels, etc.? So these are the type of questions that we need to ask for ourselves if companies start to move into a more virtual model, of which 50% or more is going to become a virtual environment. So good questions. I'm not going to try and answer them because I think they are very difficult, but I think we need to put them out there. So if we talk about aligning organizations now, after we've asked those questions to the rapidly changing and complex operating environment, we need to start locking in practices that speed up our decision-making and our execution now during the crisis, but also beyond. Many CEOs are realizing that the barriers to boldness and speed are less about technical limits and more about things such as the mindset to what is possible, to what people are willing to do, the degree to which policies that slow things down can be challenged, and our love of bureaucratic chains of command. They are all starting to realize that the all hands on deck ethos of the pandemic cannot last. But there's always ways to institutionalize what works, and the benefits can be substantial. If you think about the 2008 financial crisis, companies that were in the top fifth of performance were about 20 points ahead of their peers. 8 years later, their lead has grown to 150 percentage points. So the lesson we can learn from these companies is that those who move earlier, faster, and more decisively are the ones that will do the best. Not just now during the COVID crisis, but also going forward and beyond this situation. In this slide, I'm trying to highlight you that some shortcomings of traditional organizational structures have been highlighted. COVID is accelerating the pace of necessary change. Companies have been forced to modernize, for example, by embracing a move to remote working. Now, for my generation, and I'm not going to say which one, but it's definitely not the I generation that's now come to the fore. For us, it was a severe challenge, or for me, for example, to go into an environment of technology. But companies have realized that they have to embrace this. One principle that one needs to adopt as well is that the flatter decision-making structures many companies have now adopted in crisis mode is faster and more flexible than the traditional ones with many layers. Those with less rigid structures have been able to adapt faster and take advantage of new opportunities as they arose. Another is to think of ecosystems. That means that's how all the parts fit together, rather than thinking of separate units. Companies with healthy ecosystems of suppliers, partners, vendors, and committed customers over and above their employees have found ways to work together during this crisis because these relationships are built on trust, not just on transactions. Trust forms the basis of these ecosystems. The switch to contactless operations can happen fast. Healthcare is, I think, the best example here. Worldwide, healthcare has stepped up to the plate and has been able to see and to produce doctors and nurses in areas within a very short space of time. But during the lockdown, it also indicated to us that things that normally took long, for example, to travel to see to an office for a doctor or a nurse, or to go and get an appointment at a hospital can actually be changed rapidly. In the UK, less than 1% of initial medical consultations took place via video link in 2019. None of us have ever thought that you see your doctor like I'm seeing you now. Normally you have an appointment, you go, you wait an hour, which is normal, and then you see the doctor, and the first thing he asks you is what's wrong. So, but during this lockdown, 100% of consultations in the UK are taking place remotely currently. They are not going to the doctor's room. In another example, a leading US retailer in 2019 wanted to launch a curbside delivery business. Now, this was the one that I referred to earlier for you, the big business. It went live in less than a week during lockdown, and it is now serving its customers while maintaining the livelihood of their workforce. We can talk about online banking, the quality of security that is being improved in online banking, etc. The list of successful companies that have adopted the approach of an ecosystem is actually countless. So the magic of the moment is that the CEO and the organization's operating models has been unfrozen. I'm sure all of you knows the methodology of when you go through change, you are in a frozen mode. So you need to unfreeze or become unfrozen in order for change to happen, whereafter you can refreeze again. So at this point in time, more than once, organizations have become unfrozen. There is an opportunity now to reset how work gets done in ways that it makes multiple times more sense in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, free of the burden of historical norms. You'll see there's some quotes there that I put in for you, like, it's not so much working from home that has now become really sleeping at the office. If you have this approach to say that where I'm talking from now is my office, but I also sleep here, it changes your perspective. We used to have all these meetings, the CEO recently said. There would be people from different functions all defending their territory. We would spend hours together and nothing got decided. Now, all of this has been cancelled, and funnily enough, things didn't fall apart. It was a revelation and a common one. Instead, operating within a defined mission, a sense of urgency, and only the necessary personnel at the table, people set aside their turf battles and moved quickly to solve problems, relying on their expertise rather than on their rank. So in terms of this slide, and this is really something that when I did my research, I found to be profound, as provided by Gartner, asking ourselves how much or how have we worked differently to enable the impossible to happen during the pandemic, including our decision-making, our processes, our resource allocations, our communications, and our locality. In a normal environment, it's about business leadership and setting up strategy as well as culture and people decisions. In this environment, as illustrated on this slide, it has become about helping people maintain morale. It's about people being prepared for whatever may come in the face of uncertainty. As a result, leaders have started to show up differently, and they have started using a different lens to notice of how the members of their senior team show up. I see both areas as candidates for permanent change in the future. Organizations should become more resilient, not only in the literal sense of how late do we arrive at work or how much do we produce, but more so on our ability to transform and innovate in our responses to external events. We must become more predictive and anticipatory rather than reactive and predictable. So why has OD been vital to organizational sustainability? Why have organizations that have OD as a principle integrated into their strategic approach, why have they done better than others? Very simply, Organizational development or organizational design, no matter which one of the two you see as OD, it affirms that an organization is adaptable.
I think that's very helpful for all our audience. Now,
it makes sure that an effective organization has high financial and technical performances. Because the structure of the organization is 100% in line with the strategy. An effective organization has satisfied and loyal customers. Remember, I spoke about the ecosystem a bit earlier, and other external stakeholders. And lastly, but very importantly, an organization that has embedded organizational development and design into their strategy has an engaged, a satisfied, and a learning workforce, because they've made sure that every single person, every single activity that is done has some or other strategic impact at the end of the day. I just want to pause here and quickly share a story with you. And I know I'm running in time, but I'll try and be short. I did some work for SIDA in Botswana 2 or 3 years ago. And we were designing a performance management system for them. Actually, this is more than 3 years ago, but let's leave it there, a while ago. And as part of this process, we questioned every single employee to understand whether they knew what the strategy, etc., was about. And one of the ladies that was responsible for the preparation of boardrooms and offices in terms of reading material, water, chairs, making sure everything is set up, etc. When I asked her if she knows how her job fits in to the strategy, she said to me, yes, she has a very important job, because if the people that come into the boardroom don't have clean water and plates to eat from, they will make wrong decisions. And that would mean the organization would be unsuccessful, and then she can lose her job. So that is what OD is about, to make sure that people know where they fit in and how they contribute to the success of the organization. So stop seeing the return to normal as a destination. It's not going to happen. I hear people talk about the new normal. So how can it be a new normal if it's going to be completely different? So I'm pleading with everybody, stop seeing the return as a destination. Rather start thinking from simply returning to returning and reimagining. If you were thinking that we are going to go back to normal, things are going to be the same as they were, I really doubt it. We might still be in the same countries, in the same houses, in the same organizations, but the way we do business and the way we treat our employees and the way we design our organizations have definitely changed for the better. So what are the 9 HR focus trends going forward? Just in short, as you can see, when considering all of these trends, the ones that stand out is more employees are going to be working remotely. We should increase the use of our employee data to determine who fits where and who does what the best. But in terms of the new aspects, impact, it has become important to note that critical skills or some critical skills are no longer synonymous with certain roles. Things we assumed were imperative for a role has now become unnecessary because of the fact that we are working more remotely. And organizations must prioritize resilience as much as efficiency. We have seen a number of very efficient organizations go under because they didn't focus on aspects of resilience. Hope and optimism in a time like this can take a hammering when times are very hard. As I said, ignore what is being said online about going back to normal once this crisis is over. Consider the DNA of your company and the talent you've created or that you are working with. Consider the mission and your people you work with in the context of this question. What can you bring to the world? Hierarchy alone in organizations won't get the job done. We've seen that. Flatter structures has become more effective and can deal with the crisis much better. Remember, the economy is planetary. It's no longer local. We live in a global world. On one of my earlier slides, I had a map of the current COVID status of yesterday. And it's everywhere. And the economies are now part and parcel of this global phenomenon, as much as we want to know it or not. So our organizations need to become more human. We need to realize that everything we do and everything we create has an impact on our people as well as the world around us. And we need to now start realizing that the younger generation, and I'm speaking to myself and my generation, have valuable ideas and feedback to offer. And they should also be open to more experienced professionals to gather this information and take it forward. As I said, for those who think and hope things will go basically back to the way they were, stop. It is better to accept the reality that the future isn't what we thought it would be and start to think about how to make it work. Organizational development plays a key role in helping organizations change themselves. There's a very, very distinctive link between OD and change management. OD goes much further than change management. A very good friend of mine talks about not change management, he talks about transition management. He says the journey from where we are now to where we want to arrive is much more important than the change management we put in place once we have arrived. But OD and change management must go hand in hand in these times. Why? Because it will help organizations to assess themselves and their environments, revitalize and rebuild their strategies and structures and their processes. And it will help organizations go beyond surface changes to transform our underlying assumptions and our values that are currently governing our behaviors. So that is from my side, my view on some thoughts on how OD can assist in the times we are in now. Are there any questions, any comments?
Thank you very much, Dr. Cornell. Thank you very, very, very much. And I think everybody, I was holding my pen all through. If anybody has any question, now is the time to speak for.
Hello.
Anybody with any question? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
First and foremost, let me thank Dr. Malan for the well-articulated and insightful presentation. My question is, can you shed light on the difference between this contactless economy and the ecosystem?
Thank you, Doctor. Can you just pronounce your name for me again? I practiced it, but when somebody else mentioned it, I knew I had it wrong. Could you just help me with your name again?
Dr. Chijoke, your name. She wants you to help with your name.
No, I need. My question is.
No, she got your question.
In the presentation, she mentioned thinking people should stop thinking in a contactless economy. Rather, they should focus towards the ecosystem.
Yes.
So my question is there a difference between the two concepts? That's just my question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that question. So in my view, what I was trying to illustrate here is, first of all, we were thinking of a contactless economy, which means people will be buying online, driving past and collecting instead of going into shops, as something that was going to happen in the future. We thought it was going to be way, into the future. But it's come down now, and we had to adapt to it very quickly. But if we think of ecosystems, and if we start thinking of the contactless or economy as an ecosystem, or even if it's not your contactless economy, if you're in an environment where you own a shop, and people will still be coming in, or you have a business where you will still be your clients. You have to have an ecosystem approach. You have to look at how all the parts of the system that your business operates in, how they fit together as an ecosystem rather than separate units. In the past, we used to do stakeholder analysis, and we would do it in a matrix format and have external stakeholders, and you would have government stakeholders and maybe community members, etc. But we tend to separate them into little silos. So the new approach now is, as I try to illustrate here on the interlink, is we must start seeing them as an ecosystem, how the one supports the other and how the one is reliant on the other rather than seeing them in these little silos. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody with another question?
Yes, I have a question, please.
Please go ahead. She's listening.
Okay, Doctor, thank you very much for the presentation. You made mention of responding faster and quicker or precisely. As a consultant in Oldn, we've been working with quite a number of startups and SMEs to weather through the storm. And one of the challenges we are facing is how quick can they absorb these changes? We are finding it difficult to integrate these changes so quickly because the COVID-19 experience is unique. So how best can we work with younger organizations, move quickly to embrace agility and resilience within the shortest possible time? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jotten, for the question. Well, once again, in my opinion, and if there's other people that differ from me, please join the conversation as well. But in my opinion, the traditional way that we used to develop organizations in terms of structure, follow strategy, and how we looked at our strategy in terms of a 5 or a 10-year or a 15-year plan, we can now see from how sudden we were hit with this pandemic that what we planned for 5 years and 10 years necessarily could not be the case because things can change very rapidly. Okay. So first of all, when you design your organization, you should focus on people that are able to change the way they work very quickly, or the way that they approach how they produce products or how they deliver a service from a different perspective. Okay. In my view, we can no longer just have long strategic plans that by the end of year 5, we will have everything in place. We must try and devise ways of working that we can deliver more in a shorter time, but at a higher standard. The catch here is you cannot drop your standards, but you can try and do things much quicker and be much more agile. Now, I know I'm saying things that people will go like, Cornell, you are crazy. You come from the public sector, you know things don't work like that. Well, guess what? Some governments have been able to do better very quickly now during the pandemic than other governments that still stuck to the bureaucratic way of doing things and having meetings for meetings and committees for meetings, and then we have something else, and then only do we get to a decision. So in short, organizational design needs to go forward and focus on making sure that organizations can not only survive in the long term, but that they are agile enough to change quickly. So that means looking at processes, embracing technology, and focusing on recruiting the right skills for people to be able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question?
Yes, I have a question.
Please, ma'am, go ahead. She's listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Malam, for this wonderful presentation. During the course of your explanation on what organizations should be observing as a result of the changes that have been orchestrated by this pandemic, you mentioned that organizations is refrozen. So I just want an elaborate explanation of what that means. How is organization refrozen? And when they were frozen, what does it represent? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So just to explain that again, when you go through an organizational change, organizational restructuring, there's a model that talks about 3 steps. One is to say you've been frozen, you freeze, you're an ice cube where you are now. In order for change to happen, you need to unfreeze. Another way of putting it is you need to unlearn what you have been doing in the past. So if you've had a very hierarchical structure with long decision making, 15 signatures on every piece of paper, cell phone claims need to be signed off by 7 people, you need to unlearn that before you can move into your new way of doing, which you then freeze or you then move forward from. So basically what the unfreeze means is you have to unlearn the old way of doing things, because otherwise you will never be able to implement the new ways. Does that make sense?
Okay, all right, clearly. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other question?
Good afternoon, Kamala.
Yes, go ahead. She can hear you.
Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation. My question is, how do you deal with maybe founders or employees that are not adapting to change? How do you ship them away if you are very sure that they cannot be useful going forward? How would you deal with that as an HR expert?
Hi, Paul. Welcome and thanks. Are you still in South Africa? But yes, so in my view, there's always been processes in place to deal with employees from a poor performance perspective or people that resist change. Now, over and above poor performance, you will always have people that resist change, the so-called RC factor. And it's not just necessarily linked to certain generations or certain age groups. It is also because people are comfortable with what they have doing now, what they have now, the way things have been going. And if you then introduce sudden change, the first reaction is to push back. So in my view, a couple of things are important. First of all, you need to communicate more than ever. Rumors start when people are not informed. And you know, people start making decisions based on what somebody in the tea room said, or now these days what somebody said on WhatsApp. Did you read that on Facebook? And then people start making decisions. So very importantly, and even now more so, given the fact that we are working remotely, we can't just quickly call a staff meeting and get everybody into the boardroom and talk to them. So you need to communicate constantly, first of all, and be honest. Be honest about what the change is going to be, how it is going to impact on people, and how they can participate in the decision making. That is the third one. Remember, when people are part and parcel of making a decision, they buy into it. So if you, and I've learned this a very hard way, I've been through a number of mining strikes. So I've learned if you want to get people on your side, make them part of the decision-making process. They will then take ownership and drive the process with you. So these are a couple of things that I've learned in life. That's one way of trying to deal with people that are resisting change. Post things that shows a roadmap. Where are we now? What is the next milestone? What is in it for us? Do you have questions? Have a group of people that have been dedicated to listen to people and report back about what are the people gossiping about? What are the gripes? You should have a change management group. We used to call them the groupies. But these are the types of initiatives that I think one can put in place to make sure that your change management process is as smooth as possible. Look, I must be honest with you, you are going to lose some people along the way. You very, very rarely do you arrive with the same load of bus load at the end of the journey than you departed. But sometimes these people are also maybe not the right fit for the new environment. So then you should be in a position to give them the option. If you don't want to stay, if you don't want to be part of this bus, you can opt out. There's no reason for you. There's nothing that's preventing you from opting out of the bus if you don't want to be part of the journey. But make it as attractive and as nice as possible without lying. Guys, lies catch you at the end of the day. But that is my view. I hope that answers your question, Paul.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. Any other question?
Sorry, doctor. Sorry that I need to. Okay.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
May I interject?
Yes, please come. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for the platform, and thank you so much, Dr. Colonel Malan, for the insightful presentation. Mine is not a question, but maybe just an addition to what Dr. Malan has already adjudicated in terms of how do we get people on board in order to accept the assertions of change management. The first thing, we need to make sure that right from initiation, there is people involvement. Let's sure that we engage people, we involve them. There is the inclusivity and participatory philosophy of management, so that each and every employee become an organizational development change advocate. By so doing, it becomes much easier for each and every employee to identify themselves with the need for change. Then maybe the other aspect that I also want to put across in terms of COVID-19, it was a wake-up call for managers to make sure that we need to always continuously improving and reinventing our strategies. No matter how good our strategies today or yesteryear, but they will never remain good. And there's need for us to make sure that we always continuously improve our systems. By so doing, it becomes much easier for us to make sure that we can navigate, pass through any part of risk that we can encounter as an organization in order to achieve our strategic goals. I think that's my contribution there.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Dotson, you have something? You wanted to say something?
Yes, it's just a little bit in alignment with what Mr. Tayo had earlier raised. Because I must confess that at this point in time where we are trying to transform or to align with the current realities, we have instances where some key directors in the organizations having been given several interventions, such as personalized coachings and participatory, just as Mr. Paul rightly said, and other things like that, they refuse to change. And what we find out is that they went going one after the other to poison the employees and then to create a mutiny sort of and instigating the employees against the management, promoting rebellion and other things like that. And I could remember a particular director that it was even called and said, these are the interventions we have provided for you. We gave you a special coach, and the coach gave a very unfavorable response about you. And then we heard that you did this through the accountant by influencing them, causing rebellion. And then the person was confronted with some of these things, and he couldn't argue them out. And here, this person was also chided, advised as a director that please, you need to guide against these changes. So what do we do in the case of somebody? In fact, when he's advised to even share meetings and run meetings, he promotes rebellion. How do we handle this situation?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
I think I will just hold on, Colonel, there, and I will ask also Mr. Tosin to then bring in the panelists to participate in the conversations as we manage time. Yes.
Okay, in the same conversation, right? Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone, for the question. Thank you, Dr. Colonel Malan. It's an honor to have you with us. We appreciate you. We thank you. We thank you. We can't thank you enough. Right now, let's move on to the next session, which is the interactive discussion session. It's nice that we'll be having Dr. Colonel Malan again. She's our keynote speaker, and she'll be here with us again. So some of these questions, we can still throw it around and still rebound as much as we can. Dr. Dotunjegede, you just continue from right where you stopped. We'll give you the opportunity to push all the all the fire and the brimstone. We give you the opportunity to push it out. You'll be with us for the panel discussion as well. Mrs. Kurai Makumbe, apologies if I pronounced the name wrongly. You'll be with us in the interactive section as well. Dr. Preeti De Souza, thank you very much, ma'am. I know you're there. I know you can hear me. You'll be with us at the session as well. And Dr. Adams Asari Badioko, I don't know if he's still there. I saw him in the session some time ago. Dr. Adams, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Good evening, sir. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is. Good to have you with us today. And we have a few questions, at least a question each for each of the panelists. But I don't know if Dr. Connell would want to answer the question Dr. Dotun asked before we proceed. Can you conclude, just round up that particular question or that conversation in as short as 1 minute before I throw out the question? Is that okay? So at least we don't leave that stone unturned.
I can try.
Okay, go ahead.
Look, in my view, how do you deal with people that are actually not performing the way that you want them to and are actually poisoning or sabotaging the company? Maybe you should start focusing on it in terms from a performance management perspective. I'm now thinking very quickly, but from a performance management perspective, manage them as if they are this is their allocated task, which you are going to measure them against. If they don't perform the way that you want, then you can actually take disciplinary steps or act against them. But remember, my father used to say, somebody needs to be the adult in the story. And obviously these people are not behaving like adults. So then sometimes you need to be the adult in the room and take charge of it and start treating them like children. What I mean by that is then measure them for every single thing that they do and either reward them or don't reward them. But that would be my advice. But now Dr. Dotton also mentioned that they are directors, which makes it very difficult because these are very senior people. So my advice would be to treat them very carefully, but have a frank and open conversation maybe and say, hey, this is not the way somebody of your stature behaves. We expected much more of you. And I really don't think this is the way that this should be going. But that is just my view.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cornell. Dr. Doctor, is that clear enough? Can we move on?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Now,
thank you.
I'll leave Dr. Doctor, and I wanted to start with Dr. Doctor, but I would want him to catch his breath. Dr. Colin as well, please have a glass of water. I will go from the other participants or the panelists in the group so that at least you can catch your breath and you come back and we ask you your own question. Dr. Adams, I would like to begin with you. And the question I would like to ask is this. Are you with me, sir? Can you hear me? Dr. Adams? Dr. Adams, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
It's fine. Now, we want to ask you a question and we want you to help us simplify it as much as humanly possible. And the question is, what is the role of a leader and a leader and an OD consultant in a post-COVID-19 era? What is the role of a leader and an OD consultant in the post-COVID era?
Okay, thank you, Tosin, and good evening and good afternoon to all of us. My name is Adams, and I'm from Ghana, and I'm the Director of African Operations for Chartered Institute of Leadership and Governance, and especially I'm also a project management consultant and an architect at the same time. With my, a lot has already been said concerning this topic. And also, I don't know where the post-COVID is coming in because we are still in the COVID era here in Ghana because our case keep also rising. So I think people are still thinking of, when we go out of the COVID, then what should we be doing? Then I think I'll start from what should we be doing now so we even get to the post-COVID era. Because Dr. Justine could bear me a witness. We started, my meeting started, this is the 4th meeting I'm attending today, and they are all being done on Zoom. And I started earlier on today with Dr. Justine, in another meeting, and he had to just rush, and it's my first one. Had it not been this issue of Zoom and trying to work from the house, it wouldn't have even been possible. And the way that I even have to host a group of architects also online, because I'm into project management and basically into construction management as well. In fact, I'm also the executive director for Bed Oak, and we are into food production. And especially those of us in food production where we are into cereal mix and other products, sugar and the rest. This has also really affected us a lot, especially the COVID-19 issue, because prior to the COVID-19, we used to go on campaigns and we give samples to individuals. We can get close to people, give them sample to try our product, and then people could make a decision and the rest. But because of this COVID-19 era, you cannot do that. You can't even get close to them. People are still expecting you to go 1 meter apart and a whole lot. So it has brought a whole lot of changes. And especially when you are working with sales officers and marketers who are all used to the former way of marketing, the former way of getting clients. And now there is the COVID-19 now, and you can't deal with them. How then would you deal with these issues as a leader in such an organization? How then will you deal with a number of project managers that would have to go to other sites to go and supervise projects on your behalf and still get back your reports? You know, in a nutshell, I would say that either prior or during, leadership roles has always been the same. But it depends on we as the leaders. How then are we going to treat the people? Because now it's the people, they are the machine, they are the ones that are going to move the organization from one state to the other. Because we are not just looking at the COVID-19 era, but rather we are looking at organizational development in the post-COVID-19 era, or during the COVID-19 era. How then will organization develop? And wouldn't be as it used to be even prior to the COVID-19? What are the advantages that even the COVID-19 present for leaders to make sure that even after the era, there is still going to be a progression? What I would say is, during this era, or even after this era, every leader should be an active listener. Every leader must be an active listener. Because this is the time people are confused. I have had such issues very often. I've had people calling me, the production lines, you know, there is no wheat, there is no rice, we are not getting molasses from our because we are not importing molasses, a number of things, different. How then do you listen to these people and understand them? You listen with the rapt attention to understand and not to respond. Because at this time, people are confused. You know, we've been introduced to something which is very new to us. And people are listening to so many. So as a leader, you should be one first individual to be an active listener. Listening to understand your people. Listening to understand your subordinates. Listening to understand your superiors. The next one I also want to do is what? Honesty. There's something you call candor. Honesty, just be very honesty. And I call it honesty without any ambiguity. Just be honest with the way you deal with the employees, with the way you deal with other individuals around you, even with the way you deal with your customers. Just be honest, because, you know, we are looking at what? Organizational development. Don't think that we are in the era of COVID-19. So when you are even reducing an active ingredient in your production line, people will not see, people will notice it. How then do you deal with your, you know, we all know it's COVID-19 and, you know, people, some companies are basically laying off staff. There's no money and a whole lot of things. So you intentionally, as a leader, also decided to delay salary of your staff because there is COVID-19. How then you ensure there's a proper or there's growth and development in your organization? We are looking at organizational development, and here people is the key. I've always been telling people, people is the key. Now, the next one is, because, you know, we don't really have time. The next one, which is very important to me, is be consistent, reliable, fact-based communication. Consistent, reliable, fact-based communication. As a leader, check your facts very well. Check your facts very well, because this is new to us. And if you keep picking information anywhere and try to convince your staff with it, it will not bring the kind of development we are expecting. So consistent, reliable, fact-based. So check your facts very well. because you are a leader, and get to know that your people at that point in time, the number of them, I was confused. The next one is empathy. Empathy, especially some like myself, especially my production line. People would have to come with public transport. When I go to sites and I just go to monitor the masons and carpenters and other one who are also on the site as a project manager. You know, people have to come with vehicles and public transport and all these things. And they have a whole lot of issues already with the COVID-19, the symptoms, how they could be infected, they could be coming, they will see or hear someone coughing, and, you know, they have a whole lot of issues. Empathize with your people. Empathy, empathize with your people. Better, you could even have an employee assistance program at this time to cater for this era. Have employee assistance program just to cater for them. Your employee, your employers, your staff, who therefore will understand you the more. Most people would want to know, how do the company think of me? What is it in for me? You know, has to do with the company. How do they even understand what I'm going through before they can even come all out? Now let's learn how to manage hybrid teams. You know, when I talk of hybrid teams, now you will be in your office and making sure that there are different teams working at different things at the same time, because this time they will not be coming to the office, round table meetings and those kind of things any longer. And even if they come, you know, there's still 1 meter, nose masks, a whole lot of protocols comes with what? COVID-19. So how then would you manage your teams whilst even they are at various places? So it comes with learning the current trends of technologies. You could have everything, you could be a good leader and all those things, but if your technology is not working, if it is not working, we want your staff want, you want to have a staff meeting, you don't know how to use Zoom, you don't have to use Global Meet, you don't even know how to use any of these technologies. How then do you get them? So learn how to manage hybrid teams, the technologies, the skills, what you'll be able to use to do this. Let me summarize, let me give you my last point so that I can give other people the chance to also come in. Flexibility and I know what adaptability, be flexible. Just be a little flexible as a leader. Because, you know, we are looking at organizational development, a number of things, you know, when you are managing computers, when you're managing plans, it is so easy. But this is people. You are managing human beings with emotions and the rest. So be flexible and also be adaptable. Because of our time, I'll just also give it back to Tosin and also Alice, give the chance to other panelists to also come in.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adams. Thank you. I think that's clear enough for everyone. For the sake of time, we will not be permitting a rebound, although we hope we could, but let me jump to the next question. Dr. Preeti, are you with us? Dr. Preeti?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm there. Yes, sir.
Brilliant. The next question is for you. As leaders, should organizational development, OD, and leadership practice be scheduled or continuous? Hello?
Okay, yes.
Should it be continuous or it should be a scheduled act? Should I choose to be a leader on Monday and decide not to be a leader on Tuesday, or I need to be a leader every day?
Okay. Thank you, Sir Tosin, for this nice question. Before I go into the answer, give me 10 seconds to congratulate Madam Colonel for giving such a vibrant, awesome insight. Thank you so much, Madam. We are, Dr. Adams just did my job more easy on the second question because he has given quite a sight of, who is a leader. So when I come to these two words that have given me, organizational development and leadership, whether this particular role of a leader, should it be a scheduled one? That's the question, or it should be continuous. Okay. Yes. So when I speak about OD, Madam just now told in her presentation, OD is extremely vital for organizational sustainability. So that is very clear. You need it, and it's needed for a business enterprise to survive, grow, and go further. It is quite critical. And it being very critical, the role of putting this OD into practice is made much more easier by having the right type of a leader in the type of an organization which is there. So based on the type of organizations, you have the leadership styles which are vibrant. Now, this particular person who we call as a leader could be a managerial leader, could be a figurehead, could be a kingpin. Ultimately, he's a mover and shaker of the organization. And once being a mover and shaker of the organization, should he be static or should he be moving? Well, that's the question. Being static becomes difficult. When you say scheduled, it has to be perfectly organized, wait for all the alternatives before I take a decision. Well, that would be not possible every time. Once in a while, for critical evaluations, it is needed. But when we are speaking about a person who has to take care of instant decisions, particularly when it is time of COVID and things that are changing so drastically as what Madam told, we have to think on these lines. It is said, the key to successful leadership today is influence and not authority. And when you want to influence people, you have to move in on a continuous basis. If I could say, the growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. They really, a true leader looks into whether my people are growing. And when I say people, it is employees first. And if the employees are happy, my customers are automatically happy. And this role is being played by the great leaders of the world. You take anyone from Tim Cook to Jeff, to Jack Ma, to Sundar Pichai, to Ambani, to Tatas, to Murthy's, anybody. And I don't want to leave the ladies out because they're doing extremely well there in the same arena. So if I take Kiran Madhumkar Shaw, Indra Nooyi, Vandana Madam, or Guinea, or anybody in the world, they are doing great job. They are the ultimate role of a leader, by being continuously engaged, is to create more leaders, and they are doing it, not only followers. And when I say this, should the role of a leader be scheduled or continuous? I feel it should be present continuous. When I say present continuous, it should be solid, it should be ceaseless, it should be sustained, it should be organized. When that is happening, I definitely have the best of two worlds put together, leadership and learning, which are indispensable to each other, was the word of John F. Kennedy, and that really works. So my answer to you is, during this time, particularly a leader should be a person who is having the presence of mind and who is presently continuous. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Preeti. Thank you very, very much. That was so insightful. Ms. Kurai, are you with us? Hello,
Yes,
Ms. Kurai. Okay.
Hello, yes.
Yes, I can hear you clearly. How are you, ma'am? Good.
I'm fine, and you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to the session. I'll be asking you a question now. And the question is, how can an individual become an effective OD and leadership evangelist? How can an individual, a person, become an effective OD and leadership evangelist? You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I think, thank you, good day to everybody. I think Dr. Adam spoke to some of those qualities that someone can be an effective ODL evangelist. But in essence, I'll say it's important, one of the facets, there are many facets to this, but one of the facets is to be a reflective leader. And I think reflective leadership is important because as leaders, we need to be evaluating the decisions, the mistakes and successes in a constructive way, because as we do that, this assists in developing actionable insight for the future. So being reflective always helps individuals to also to reduce the stress and enables them to deal better with the pressures of life. I think it was Peter Drucker who said, follow effective action with quiet reflection, and then from quiet reflection will come even more effective reflection. So reflective practice is a transformative process in the ODL facet. And then linked to this, I think it's also important for personal mastery. I think as an individual, you need to consistently improve yourself throughout the professional journey. I think it's either you're growing or you're dying. And if you're growing, you're adding value to what you're doing in an organization. And if you're dying, it means you're being ineffective and inefficient. So yeah, but added to that is that in as much as you are growing, people attend seminars, trainings, workshops, and we do further, further studies that we do. I think it's important that as we do those further studies, we implement what we learn. I think a lot of times we say, oh yes, a tick, I've got an MBA, tick, I've got a doctorate, but you're not implementing what you've learned. So I think sometimes we fall short in lack of implementation. So that is very important to avoid impediments in becoming effective. And I think as we build ourselves, we also need to realize that resilience leadership is also important. It's key in ODL. I think as a leader, you need to ensure that when you encounter adverse circumstances, how do you emerge stronger? Because I think as a resilient leader, you need to have the ability to sustain your energy levels, the pressure to cope under, disruptive circumstances like as we are in COVID, and how do you bounce back? I can give an example of Nelson Mandela. I think when he went to jail in 1962, he was more of violence beget violence, but after 20 years in jail and of reflection and continuous improvement of himself, he came up advocating for peace and reconciliation, which eventually at some point led him to winning a Nobel Peace Prize. But that being said, I think we need to ensure that as individuals, we need to have the requisite skills. And I think some of these have been spoken to in terms of qualities and traits to be an ODL evangelist. I think Dr. Adams spoke of, displaying high integrity and honesty. Honesty is very important. And you also need to communicate powerfully and prolifically. And then you also need to build relationships and develop others. You need to be creative and innovative, and then display a strategic perspective as you go along. Another example that I would have given is of Strive Masiwa, who's the founder of Econet Global. I think when he had challenges, when he wanted to start his telecoms company in Zimbabwe, he was resilient and true to himself, and he became a businessman and the philanthropist that he is today. And I think that's an example of an ODL evangelist. So in a nutshell, that is my contribution, Tosin. You need to unmute your mic, Tosin.
Sorry, everyone. Thank you very much, Ms. Kurai. I heard all you said, and I'm sure everybody heard you as well. The next question is for Dr. Dotun. Dr. Dotun, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Sir. Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Brilliant, brilliant. You must be well rested by now. Now, the question is, how important is OD in human resource management? We are very aware that that's your area of huge impact. And what do you think is the importance, or how important is OD to human resource management?
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take a look at historical growth of HR. From 1960, when Michael Armstrong and others advocated for human resource, and then Mullin said HR is the elevation of personnel management to strategic functions. And Professor Dave Orridge, the father of modern HR thinker, did a research in 2017, which is called the Global Competency for HR. And that was done in about 50 countries of the world. And that cut across about 100,000 HR practitioners across the countries of the world. And then what it did was to establish what should be the current skills HR leaders should have. And then it took the research back to 1987. In 1987, when HR was growing, we come to realize that it moves from certain elements or components, and it was growing gradually. In 2004, you have the HR business partnership, and the essence of bringing HR business partnership was to make HR as part of a strategic contributor to corporate performance. And thereafter, in 2016, 2017, the global HR competency model was birthed. And then this HR global competency is divided into 9 competencies, each into 3. And the first one is what we call core drivers. HR as core driver. What does it mean? It means HR must be a strategic positioner. 2, HR must be a paradox navigator. 3, HR must be a credible activist. That is the first set. And then the second one is delivery enablers. What does it mean? It means as a delivery enabler, HR must be a compliance manager. HR must be an analytic designer and interpreter. HR must be a technology and media integrator. And then the final stage is called organizational enablers, which means HR as a culture and change champion, HR as a human capital curator, and then HR as a total rewards steward. What he is trying to say is that beyond the traditional roles and functions of HR, recruitment and selection, outsourcing, human resource information system, performance management system, reward management and compensation, legal aspect of HR, health and safety, HR must do something beyond that. Because today, most of these traditional roles can easily be outsourced. You can outsource your payroll. You can outsource your safety. You can even outsource your performance management and quite a number of that. But the role of culture can't be outsourced. You can outsource culture. Using social media as instrument of change, you can outsource it. So when we begin to see the change needed for HR to transition from the traditional responsibilities to moving beyond even people management, to understanding the role of OD. So there is a lacuna, a little gap, because there are the argument between and for should HR undertake OD or should we have OD separate from HR, whether HR can handle OD or whether OD should stand alone is not even the point of discussion here. But the point of discussion is the inclusion of OD in some of the HR responsibilities in some of our works. When we work with certain organizations, you see the HR complaining, management has not paid for the performance bonus, and you see people arguing and advocating for their individual performance management, which we call EPA, employee performance management. But when OD comes in, OD begin to see something different. So I do a little bit of the difference between OD and HR. HR mitigates against employees' risk. OD is for organizational values as a system. HR is for equity and diversity. OD is to assess corporate interventions, corporate values, corporate performance, business performance, structures, and processes. While HR is individualism, OD is corporate-centric. And therefore, how does that affect HR in today's world? It means if you're going to be an effective HR, you'll be looking at your activity and people analytic from the global point of view. You're not seeing HR as a department. You're not seeing HR as a person. You are seeing HR as the end product of the business. In his recent article, Professor Dave Ori said, HR is not about HR. And we ask, what does that mean? It means the purpose of HR department is not to just have a department, but to consolidate, to support, and to add value to the corporate organization. So when the business is performing, HR is performing. And when the business is failing, HR is failing. So in current dispensation, HR needs to embrace OD by understanding that it is about corporate system and not about individual alone. The employee performance management must be linked to the corporate strategy. And when it is linked to corporate strategy, it will succeed. But when it is restricted to individual, it will fail. So performance management fails today because they are not linked to corporate strategy. And that is what OD is advocating for, that it is not just about HR, it's not just about an individual, but collectively, of course, moving from individual by capitalizing on the investor, by capabilities. We have the individual competence and corporate capabilities. If that competence means individual as a person, the capability is what we have collectively as a system, as an organization, as a business. So when HR embraces OD, it means one, they will be looking at HR functions from a corporate point of view. That is to say, every function, every initiative, every strategy of HR is a product of global corporate direction. Again, it means that HR begins to incorporate OD by looking at the entire value system or value chain. 2, by looking at the entire process, not just HR process, but the entire process. 4, by looking at the entire structure, not just HR structure, but the entire system. So when HR incorporates OD, then it's able to build a more stronger, a more dynamic, a more functional, a more robust support to the organizational performance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dotun. As always, very passionate and energetic. We can feel your vibrancy and energy. Thank you very much, sir. And the last question is for Dr. Cornell. We've had a lot from you today. We'll be asking one more question. The question is, can you at least give us mention 5 OD core career path? 5 core OD career path.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Dotton, once again for setting the scene for me. My response is very much aligned to the previous answer. So given the fact that I've been advocating that OD is central to organizational growth, organizational survival, but also to taking organizations into the next phase, whatever that might be, I've had a look at 5 different career paths. Now, I'll give you what a new title could be. I was listening to Dr. Dotton, and I was also speaking about new roles for HR. So maybe these are some new roles for OD practitioners as well, which the first one is to future-proof an organization. That would be something to do with being a cognitive and an intelligent talent architect. So that career path, as I now show it, is in what we would traditionally talk about as talent management. So you can go into the talent management route, but as a talent architect. Once again, future-proof. Secondly, by developing a measurement culture and generating real-time predictive business analytics and intelligence, you can contribute to analyzing the future. To make sure the organization is future-proof, you need to know what you have now, and more importantly, what you don't have, so that you can develop people in that direction. So now we're talking to be a digital futurist and a digital analyst. Old term would be performance management direction. So OD can also go into a performance management. Just remember, these paths I'm now talking is over and above the normal OD, the OD career path. Thirdly, it is important to develop an agile high-performance organization, or HIPO. Culture is important, and you need to have a high level of employee engagement, as been said by previous speakers. So in that environment, somebody can go into the path of a behavioral economist, is what I call it. Old term, OD, the normal organizational design. How do you design an organization to be a high-performance organization with a culture and everything that goes with it? Second last one is to work in, or to move into mainstream to make sure that human resource management is part and parcel of your core business processes by offering business valued solutions to key organizational performance or organizational problems. So in that space, you become an innovative solutions architect, not a talent architect as such, but solutions architect. And that would be somebody that goes into HR strategic planning, or even just strategic planning. Let's not just say HR, but somebody that goes into a strategic planning mode. And then the last one, which I think is also very important, because everything works from a basis of governance, from rules. There's always rules to the game. And that is to develop a governance framework, be involved in development of processes, principles. How do you develop ethical organizational cultures? How do you work on company values? And as such, the role, the last one would be an advocate and a custodian or a steward of governance and ethics. And that would be traditionally somebody that is involved in HR audits, HR metrics, HR compliance management. So in my view, those are 5 possible career paths that somebody in OD can follow.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That's really very enlightening and insightful. That's about it for the conversation. Ma'am Maureen, you have something to say? I see your hand up.
Very much, Tosi, and let me comment that you are doing a very wonderful work.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
We are all enjoying this session.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just wanted to briefly add to what the previous speaker before Dr. Dotto said to the question of how can an individual become an effective OD evangelist. It is that simple. What do evangelists do? How do evangelists communicate? What do evangelists concentrate on when they are evangelizing? Of course, for anything that any individual, especially leaders, want to portray or whatever they want to push in the public domain, there are sets of values and principles that guides whatever information they want to share or they want to disseminate. And the essence of that information dissemination is to ensure that people buy into what you are presenting. So an evangelist focuses on keywords and principles of what he's evangelizing about. So it is important that we now as practitioners, scholar practitioners, understand what are the basic principles of organizational leadership and development. What are those things that he's trying to portray in the organization? What are the values? What are the key components of OD as a discipline? That is number one. Then number two is you've got to be very, very reflective. You've got to actually be evangelizing with your actions more than what you are saying. People will understand and believe in what you are preaching more when they see you exemplify it through your actions, through the way you execute your duties, the way you communicate, the way, just about everything that you do in that particular setting that you are trying to, convey that message to. So it is very, very important we learn how to practicalize whatever thing that we have gotten as our belief in this discipline, in this body of knowledge that we are now trying to, practicalize or institute in our organizations. It's very, very key that as you are telling people, this is what I think we should be doing here, they should see you doing it much more than you want them to do it. That's another thing. Then I also want to say a little thing about the question that Dr. Adams responded to. We're talking about the role of a leader and an OD consultant in post-COVID-19 pandemic. And I do remember Dr. Adams mentioned quite a number of things that leaders should begin to imbibe and reflect as they lead people in this difficult time. But ultimately, what I want to emphasize in is, for us that are in practice, part of what Dr. Adams have mentioned is actually what we have started doing since the partial call off on the lockdown. But some of us are not seeing results. We are not seeing things changing. We are not seeing, high-spirited staff. We are not seeing, people, falling into place in their roles because psychologically these people are displaced. And some of them are also a little bit hopeless, not just hopeless because of their engagement in the company, but because of also their personal career development. So what I'm saying is, in addition to what Dr. Adams has highlighted, I want to say that the most important thing that every leader should be doing now is to inspire strong hope and resilience in your staffs, in your workforce. They need to know that things will be better, even if you are not sure. We have to inspire that strong hope because there is a lot of hopelessness amongst our workforce from what I have observed for my organizations and that of my other colleagues that we have been having conversation. So there is a lot of hope, there is a lot of displacement of belief in individual future, not just the organizational, status. So leader at any point in that, particularly now, should know how to inspire strong hope and resilience among the workforce. When you get them to believe that, of course, things are going to, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, every other thing that you are telling them, they will be able to assimilate and they will be able to, allow it sink. Otherwise, we'll keep struggling with them. And another thing is that leaders must endeavor to be more resourceful at times like this. Because for some of these things that Dr. Adam highlighted, it is only possible when we have the resources. So we need to find alternative means of getting what we need to be able to take care of these people that are working with us, to be able to solve their little problems, and of course, to be able to keep things going, pending when we are able to stabilize and then pick up again as organizations. So that's just what I wanted to put forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ma'am Maureen. Thank you. It's always a privilege to hear you speak.
Dr. Tosin?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if I have to interrupt just a minute,
Okay.
to the question which you had asked to Madam Colonel,
Okay.
very, very insightful answers is what Madam gave. I was really happy with it. I've jotted down everything. Well, one thing that I wanted to, just put into the present scenario is one more addition, if it is possible. With the changing times, okay, when we spoke about evolution of HR long time back, I ended in my class, called it as a devolvement of HR. What is this devolvement of HR? If I say I'm only a HR person, HR, I may not find the right place at a later stage in the organization. So what is now the present thing due to COVID is, do I have the HR touch with artificial intelligence also? From this extreme to that extreme. So only when I bring a bridge between the organizational aspects as well as the technical aspects, putting together all the other departments, then only a HR person can do justice. So the present concept is, are you an integrative HR practitioner? Are you an integrative OD practitioner? If yes, you can survive anywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Because I like Dr. Priti's contribution, because one way or the other, while everybody's just answering all the questions, it's just like OD is like the core of everything else. It's like OD is there and everything is just, so eventually, perhaps OD is supposed to be, maybe it's not even supposed to be a profession to one person. It's something everybody should be involved in. Yeah. This is just based on the response I'm getting from everyone. So this is just the background of my mind right now.
So that is devolvement of HR, where HR has to be everybody's domain, not only HR domain. Everybody must know it.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you very much. Mr. Tabani, you have something to say? I can see your hand up before we quickly move on. Mr. Tabani? Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, I see your hand up. You have something to say? You have a contribution?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Tosin. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Saban Debere. I've got a question. How do you assess the impact and effectiveness of a presentation, whether it's a business presentation, whether it's a sales presentation, or a training presentation? How do you assess the impact and effectiveness of a training presentation, assess the impact and effectiveness of a presentation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Justin, you want to help out?
Well, I will leave it to the panelists.
The panel, okay.
The panelists. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Dotun, Dr. Cornell, we need your help. Dr. Priti, please come to my aid, please.
If we go to the traditional way of doing presentations, if you count the number of people that are still awake at the end of the session, that's kind of quite effective. But no, more seriously, from my view, if people actually think about what you said in your presentation afterwards, and if they implement some of the suggestions or the discussions that you had, if you see those things happening years later or a while later, then you've had an impact. Otherwise, you could have just sent them the slides and they could have read it between meals. So, but in my view, if whatever came out of the discussion, even if the presentation was boring, but the discussion that followed generated new ideas that are actually being considered and implemented, you can see it as an effective presentation.
Yes, just to add more, it is said, even the worst sermon, the boring sermon has a pearl in it. Okay, so it is for the person to take it. So out of the entire presentation, if there is one person and he or she is ignited, if there are 50 here, if there is one person and if one person takes 1 point, your presentation is definitely impactful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just chip in there. Dr. Colonel touched on 5 fundamental roles for future OD. And our mission is to ignite conversations and to make an impact in organizations. And I'm going to throw this to Kurai and Jane. Kurai from Zimbabwe and Jane Jerry in Kenya to work on a paper with Dr. Cornell and Dr. Preeti in terms of expanding these 5 roles that Dr. Cornell has identified. And I understand Jane is still working on a master's thesis, and hence Kurai will be the principal of that research. And I'm pushing it to Kurai because she recently finished a master's thesis, and Jane is still in the process. So I'm going to share details, and Kurai will be the principal researcher in this particular conversation, and working with Dr. Preeti and Dr. Cornell in terms of working on expanding these roles. And we are going to adopt these 5 roles as the key defining roles of the organization leadership and development network, effective the 1st of August, 2020. So as Organization Development Network members, we are intelligent talent architects, we are digital futurists, we are behavioral economists, we are innovative solutions architects, and advocates or stewards of good governance and ethics. And this is what we are going to have a conversation later on when this research has been conducted and they expand more on these 5 fundamental roles. Is that fine with you, Dr. Cornell and Dr. Preeti?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Justin. And Mr. Tabani, let me add this to what you've said. If you want to know how effective your presentation has been or is, look at the engagement. See how we are communicating now. Look at our communication now. Look at the quickest way to get the feedback, to measure your impact there and then, is to see the engagement. Sometimes one conversation, one question leads to another. And just look at the conversations we're having now. It's obvious without a doubt that Dr. Connell's presentation was effective. We heard it, and now we're asking questions. So engagement is one way that you can actually measure your presentation. I see somebody's hand up, Mr. Enoch. I don't know if you still have questions. Your hand has gone, the hand is no more up. Any other person who has a question or contribution should let me know. We would like to acknowledge the presence of the CEO of Faith Oak Pharmaceuticals Nigeria. His name is Mr. Chris Ojepulu. Apologies if I pronounced the name wrongly. Mr. Chris, are you with us? Can you hear me? Hello? Mr. Chris, can you hear me? Okay, maybe he's not online. And we would also like to appreciate the presence of Miss Anita Singh, the Vice Principal of Shining Star International School. Can you hear me? Can you hear me as well? Okay. Okay, maybe they can hear me. I really would like to thank the panelists for their contribution. For everyone who has asked a question, just know that you've affected one person's life or the other. If not anybody, if nobody can tell you that, I'm telling you that right now. When it comes to knowledge, I'm very greedy. And trust me, I have succeeded in sucking all your brains. Thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to suck as much as I can. Okay? And don't be surprised if you feel empty afterwards. I did it because I've taken a lot from all of you. Okay? Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item, and we'll be running up very soon. We've had this conversation. I'm sure it has been insightful. I don't want us to stop this conversation here. Sometimes you might, for me, most of the time, my brain actually functions after an event. I replay everything and I keep asking myself various questions. Feel free to still send in your questions, and we might probably be able to direct the question to somebody who would give you the answers that you actually want. For example, I can send a question and Dr. Justin might decide to send it to two professionals to respond to me. So that's a way that we can actually go about that. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the winners of books from the OLDN network members. Some of us are published authors and we'll be giving out free books. Dr. Justin has books, some books to give out. I have books to give out. Let me make it big so that, okay, it's on the screen, brilliant. Now, I have books to give out. Now, the most effective way we'll be doing this is based on the country. If you are in Botswana, we know where you are. You registered, we have your details. I think that's Mr. Emmanuel Yang. His book has just been released, Own Every Step. I think it was released about a couple of days ago, last week to be precise. And I'm sure we'll be getting some copies for those people who are in Botswana. If you're in UAE, anywhere in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, I am here. I have books. Any book you want, I have a couple of them. I can send it to you as a gift for for appreciating us with your presence. If you are in Zimbabwe, Dr. Justin has got amazing books that he will be giving out as well. Wherever you are, we have your location and we'll be sending books to you accordingly. We will try to send you physical copies, although it might include some logistic cost of sending. If that's the case, if it's not possible, we might as well send you e-copy. Either way, you'll be getting a copy of the book or any of these books from any of the authors. Another advantage you can take is, even if you have a physical copy, it's okay. Be greedy like me. Ask for e-copies for the other books. It's not a big deal. And this is the network. The goal is to help us grow. And if this is why we are writing the books, then we are happy to give it to the members of this particular network, so at least everyone can grow accordingly. I'm trying to move as fast as I can. Mr. Tayo Adigun, the MD of Credit Switch Limited, you are recognized. If you would like to put a word in, we can give you less than 30 seconds. I don't know how much you appreciate that anyway, but we can give you a few minutes to actually respond to us. Mr. Tayo Adigun, are you here? Mr. Tayo, can you hear me? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but we appreciate your presence. We thank you very much. And the next item on the list, we're trying to round up now. We've spent more than we bargained for. I apologize on behalf of the network to everyone, and we thank you for your patience. I can see we still have over 50 people here. Now, we have upcoming events. There's a 2020 Global Oldn and Leadership Masterclass. Okay, the team is Leading Transformation, Lessons from Global Oldn. Okay, that would be on September 4th. Would encourage you to please attend. It's an opportunity for us to vibrate and share what we know. Okay, and there's a speaker. I think the ISODC chief will be there. I can see her face, I think. There's another, Mampriti will be conducting another event for us on the 15th of August. Yes, I said it earlier on that I get to see Mampriti, Dr. Priti every day now. I'll be seeing her in a couple of days again. It's always a privilege to actually learn from you, ma'am. Thank you very much for all you do. She will be speaking on the advancing the OD field. That's an opportunity for us to hear.
Extremely very grateful. I am extremely, this is the freest, most expensive, valuable knowledge I've ever gotten in my life. You guys are so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. It's good to hear from you. Thank you. Another event.
Let me say, sorry, Mr. Tayo, let me quickly say that Mr. Tayo, the MD of Credit Switch, is the one that actually employ one of our member, Debo, who is the CFO, current CFO now for the Credit Switch. So just to acknowledge that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Tayo. We appreciate you. Thank you for giving. We know what it means to get a job in a time like this, and you've made yourself an icon in somebody's career. God bless you, sir. Thank you very much for that. Another event we're looking forward to is on the 22nd of August 2020, we'll be having the opportunity to hear from Emmanuel Yang. He's the one who just published a book. I said it a couple of minutes ago last week. It's an opportunity for us to tap and hear from him directly. You have his book, you can read this book. It's additional value for you to get the raw facts from the guy who actually wrote the book. So we're looking forward to that. And these are upcoming events, okay? Emmanuel, thank you very much. Emmanuel, are you there with me? Emmanuel. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Hello? Mr. Emmanuel? Okay, I think he went offline. Dr. Jotun, can you do us the honor of giving the vote of thanks and thanking everyone for their presence? Can you please do us the honor, sir?
Okay, once again, we want to thank the organizer of this program, in particular, Dr. Vere, Mr. Tosin, and every other person who facilitated this program by making it possible. I want to thank Dr. Justin, the founder and the director of Code, as well as co-founder of Oldn, for the privilege he has given to each and every one of us. Today, the network is above a few years ago. I want to thank every other person too, in presence of Dr. Priti, and our major facilitator today, Dr. Cornell. You are so beautiful. Thank you for for tapping from a wealth of experience. We are really loaded. And I want to thank Dr. Shijoke. I want to thank all the people that participated from India, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, Morocco, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and every other person too, for making it a success. And I will look forward to more engagement and interaction. Once again, OD platform is based on inquiry and engagement. And we want to ignite conversation that has value to individual, to family, to community, to corporate organization, and to the world at large. Once again, thank you for coming and to have you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dotun. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I encourage everyone to follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. There's a lot of information going on around there. Please follow the social media out there, handles or on LinkedIn and Facebook, and share with your own network. You never know, you might be impacting somebody's life. That's number one. Number two, another thing you should be doing is at least the onus is on every member to at least invite their network to join the platform. Okay, see how we're benefiting from this communication and this conference, for instance. If each member brings at least 2 people per month, that's a very good set. That we're building a very big community, and our impact will even expand in scope and meaning. Okay, so on behalf of the organization, on behalf of Dr. Justin, on behalf of everyone here, on behalf of Dr. Cornell, Dr. Preeti, Dr. Chijoke, and every member of the network, thank you very, very, very much. It's really, I'm trying to find the right words, but look at just imagine my feeling and just see, I have butterflies in my stomach. Thank you very much. I truly hope we can do this again some other time. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
thank
everyone.
You,
goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Bere. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Dr. Preeti, I'll see you in a few days. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.